Okay. Well, welcome, folks. Torah portion. Achrei. We continue with the fourth reading. Actually, very short today. We finished with the offerings for Yom Kippur. We finished those offerings. Now we continue. And Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, what did he say? David el Aaron, speak to Aaron, Velbanav, and to his sons. Right? They are the Kohanim. Kohen Gadol, high priest is Aaron. His sons are the Kohanim. They'll call Bnei Israel, and to all of the children of Israel. And say this to them. This is the thing that God has commanded, saying, Ish, man, Beis Israel, from the house of Israel, Asher Yishchat Shor or Kesef, who slaughters an ox or a lamb, or aze, or a goat, b'machana, inside the camp, or Asher Yishchat michutz lamachana, or slaughters it outside of the camp. Now, we're talking here about giving an offering on the altar, right? We're not talking about just, for Shabbos, you're preparing.
Yeah. Not meat processing here.
Right, exactly. So Rashi in verse number 3, Sheyishchat Shor Kesef, he will slaughter a bull or a sheep. The Mikdashim Akotsu Medaber. So Rashi says that the verse is speaking about consecrated animals as offerings. Shenemar lahakriv korban, to bring as an offering, offering. It doesn't say in this verse, it says in the next verse. That's why Rashi is forewarning, because the sound of the verse, it just sounds like anytime you're slaughtering, right? But in the next verse it says lahakriv, to bring as an offering. The machna, in the camp, chutz lazara, outside of the courtyard of the base of Mikdash, or of the tabernacle of the Mishkan. In other words, not in its right place. That's the point over here. Okay, you slaughtered it not in the right place,
because it's supposed to be slaughtered in the courtyard.
Exactly.
All right.
Courtyard meaning the courtyard of the sanctuary, right?
Yeah.
To make the
Like
pictures.
before the golden altar.
No. The outside altar.
Oh,
Golden altar is not the courtyard. That's a sanctuary.
Oh, I'm getting the copper altar.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. The northern side of it.
Yeah.
The top side, the altar, that is more to the southern side. Okay. And so it's continuing from the previous verse, in verse number 4 now. El Pesach Mayid, and to the entrance of the oil Mayid, which is tent of meeting, meaning the sanctuary, Lo Yaviu, did not bring it, this animal, lahakriv, to offer it, carbon lashem, as an offering to God, lifnei mishkan Hashem, before the sanctuary of God. Dam yechashiv leishahu, it will be considered like dam, like blood, meaning spilling blood, right? It will be considered for that man, dam shafach, blood he has spilled, v'nichras haish ahu min kerev amay, and this person will be cut off from his people. Cut off means early death. And that was only in times of the Holy Temple that it's the only time you could do this. Dam yechashiv, it will be considered, hey Jeremy, welcome. It will be considered as blood, kishecheth dam ha'adam, meaning, Rashi says, as if you shed the blood of a human being, meaning that you will pay with your life, meaning by the hand. Actually, I don't understand what that means, because if you took the life of a person, then you, in the court of law, you could get the death sentence.
Yeah.
Right. Here, you're not going to a court of law to get the death sentence. It'll be by the hands of heaven.
Yeah.
It'll be the heavenly court. So I'm not exactly certain what Rashi means. That it's as if you shed human blood for which you're liable for the death penalty. Death penalty, again, by the hands of heaven.
Is it like an offering in vain?
Oh, that's for sure. It's
Yeah.
it's more than that.
Yeah.
Offering in vain doesn't mean you get cut off by heaven,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Dam shafach, you spill blood, la rabbis. So this is now to include, because it's redundant, right?
Yeah.
It says, dam shafach, could be just said, this will be considered dam yichashev, it'll be considered as if you've spilled like human blood. Now it says dam shafach. So, right, the rabbis, this comes to include the redundancies to include as a zerik damim bachut, to someone who sprinkles the blood outside of the grounds of the Beis Hamikdash. In other words, if it was slaughtered in the proper place, but the sprinkling took place outside of the sanctuary, or outside of the altar, or in that area, then that's coming to include that too. Verse number 5. In order that they should bring the children of Israel their offerings, that they are offering al pnei asada, on the open field, and they should bring them to God, el pesach to the entrance of the tent of meeting, el kohen, to the kohen, and they will slaughter the offering of a shlomim, meaning a peace offering, la Hashem oisam. Right? They will offer them. Right? So Rashi says, Asher heim zeivchim, that they are slaughtering. Asher heim regilim lizboyach, that they are accustomed to slaughter. Why does Rashi say that they're accustomed to slaughter? Because the slaughter of the animal doesn't have to be done by the kohen. Yeah. What must be done from the kohen is the blood taken from after the slaughtering, that it's put onto the altar. Mm-hmm. That has to be done by a kohen. But actual slaughtering could be done by a regular Israelite. Okay. So then why is the verse saying Asher heim zeivchim, that they slaughter the kohen? Why is it saying that? Oh, so 1 second. In order the children should... No. Actually, it's not saying the kohen. I'm sorry. Because it's speaking of the children of Israel, that they're bringing the offering that they slaughter. So Rashi is saying because they're accustomed to slaughter. Right? In other words, they're not obliged, because the kohen could do the slaughtering, but usually they did the slaughtering.
Okay. Usually the kohen did the slaughtering?
No, the opposite.
Oh, usually the people of Israel did.
Right. Right.
So they were accustomed, like it's saying.
Not obliged, in other words.
Well, so we learned from here that it was actually the Kohen more often than not didn't do it.
Right.
Although he could do it.
Exactly. Verse number 6. Mizarka kohen is Adam, and the kohen will dash the blood. So now it says the kohen, right? Yeah. Before, in the previous verse, it says the Israelite, the Bnei Yisrael, right? Now it says the kohen that he will take the blood and he will dash it all of mizbeach, on the altar, Hashem, of God's altar, Pesach oil made, at the entrance of the oil made, meaning because it was in front of the tent of meeting, meaning the sanctuary, right outside of it. And he will cause up the fat to go up in smoke. Not only the blood he'll dash on the altar, but also the fat of the animal will go up in smoke. There will be a pleasing fragrance to Hashem. And lo zivkon, they should no longer slaughter their offerings. The seirim, as the seirim. So he's saying over here, seirim often is a goat, but it doesn't mean goat over here. A satyrs after which they stray. See, demons, Rashi's going to say. This shall be an eternal statute for them for all generations. In other words, to do it in this manner, right, that it could be slaughtered by an Israelite with the blood and putting on the altar itself of the fats on the meats are something the Kohen does, right? So this is the eternal statute for all generations. Rashi Seirim Shadim Kamoi Hasirim Yerakdu Sham. So it means demons. We see this word Seirim elsewhere, referring to demons. Okay, it's the first time that we have that word being used in that manner. Because usually a sa'ir is a he-goat. It's a goat, a male goat. But Rashi says here means demons. Oh, so it's interesting. The he-goat, right, the demon is a he-goat, a male goat, because that's how they were visualized by those who believed in them. That's what Ibn Ezra explains. Or because they share the male goat's restless nature, that Barbanel says. Because it's the same word, right, for a male goat. So what's the relationship? So either because they visualize this pagan god in this manner, or that they're restless like those who serve these pagan gods. Okay, let's see. Take a moment, see if we have. Something here.
I'll be right back.
No, on what we learned. I don't. Second. Oh. Okay, so we spoke about the fats, that they are a pleasing fragrance when they go up in smoke on the altar. So the Rebbe says to explain this idea over here in the service of Hashem, right? We're not learning in the service of Hashem. What does it mean? So fats are a metaphor for the power of pleasure in the individual. When you have pleasure of something, you get fatter. From food for sure. Right. Kind of makes sense. You know, when you have pleasure in food, you're going to eat more food and probably not such good foods. Right. that will fatten up the person. But in general, the idea of pleasure fattens up the person, as um, um, no, as the saying was that what's his name? Aaron Carliner was heavy, and he was heavy from his saying "Amen Yehesh Rabba." That made him, he had such pleasure in saying it that helped him to make him fat. So now the evil inclination can rise up to the individual and make a claim that, however, there's no doubt that we could save these powers of pleasure in the individual and use them for holiness on the altar of God. Right? So we see, because we are putting it on the altar of God. So in other words, we're using it for the altar of God, but we could use it for other things too, for other pleasures, things that are kosher in permissible manner, like for one's livelihood and so on. Therefore, the Torah is coming to teach us that you have to bring the fats and the blood on the altar of God only. And that's why it spoke about, right, that if you, pretty harsh punishment, that if you take the blood and you sprinkle it outside of the altar, right? That's pretty harsh punishment because it's coming to teach us a lesson. The Rebbe saying, I mean, I added this part about the harsh punishment, right? That that the fats, the pleasure, right? The fats that represent the pleasure, and blood that represents life itself. Torah is coming to teach us that should be only used as an offering on the altar of God and not outside of the altar, even if it's in the encampment. In other words, meaning it's still within the camp. It's not outside of the camp, right? In other words, you're using this pleasure for your, you know, for something that is permissible. So it's not, you know, it's not out of the field, so to speak. It's in the field. But nope, it should be only used in a holy manner. And then those things that are permissible and that are even fitting and necessary, even those things, and they're not holy things though, but they're necessary. Like it's necessary to eat, right? For example. So they should be done out of necessity as opposed to out of having the pleasure in them. Because that pleasure should be on the altar of Hashem for holiness. That's pretty heavy. That's pretty heavy. All right. We'll see you shortly. Bye, Tanya. Triple header.